identified as Jews and German, perhaps even more just German.
Many Jewish families had lived in Germany for centuries, and they saw themselves as fully fledged members of German society. In the early years of the Nazi regime, few Jews made the decision to emigrate.
First thing that we need to remember when we ask ourselves why did people stay is that these Jews are German Jews. This means that they see themselves as German.
Berlin-based Jewish heritage guide Ben Fisher.
This is their home, this is their land, this is where their families used to live for centuries. They have German names, they dress in German clothes, they work in German professions. So a sense of belonging, a sense of pride. This is my home, and now this Hitler guy comes and tells me that I should leave. No, I would stay here despite the persecution. So first of all, some sort of a defiance. Also for Jews, in our collective memory, we've seen many episodes.
Clearly can come to our stores. You can shop online and click and collect within an hour. We're now offering 2-hour same-day delivery within certain catchments, and we plan to roll out to more customers. We're offering same-day delivery, next-day delivery. We're putting the customer in charge, and we think that means that, versus the Amazons of this world, actually, we can out-convenience Amazon by using our store network, because we're typically 10 to 15 minutes away from where our customers are, and that provides us with a unique advantage. And what we've been doing over the last number of years is sort of digitizing our business. That means actually, however you want to shop, whether it be in-store or online, we join it all up, make it as easy as possible, and we put you in control. And we know for customers, that's what they want. And I think that's a distinct advantage versus a pure play provider.
Now, before I let you go, you announced fairly recently you're going to be standing down in the summer. What are you going to do next?
Oh, well, it's 11 years of Pets at Home, so I think it's certainly time for me to hang up my leash and hand on the reins onto the next CEO. My priority right now is I'm here till May, so I want to see through this year and make sure that the business continues to be in fine shape. And then I think I'm deserving of a bit of a break, I think, and that's my plan.
All right, well, look, come and see us before you go, Peter. Good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks.
Now, it's a huge week for tech stocks in the United States, with some of the industry's biggest names reporting results. Well, last night, Microsoft kicked things off, reporting better than expected profits of more than $18 billion for the final 3 months of 2021. Well, that, of course, follows news last week that Microsoft is planning to buy the gaming company Activision Blizzard for a record $70 billion. Well, here are the details. Microsoft reported profits of $18.8 billion for the final 3 months of 2021. That was up 20% on the same period a year earlier. Its sales hit $51.7 billion during the quarter. That was also 20% up on the same period last year. Well, joining me now is Shona Ghosh. She's Senior Tech Editor at Insider. Shona, welcome to you. I mean, worth noting, the growth is being driven very much by Azure, the cloud business, although actually its numbers came in slightly shy of expectations.
That's right. And that's really true for not just Microsoft, but Amazon and Google, particularly Amazon, I would say. And obviously, we're expecting those results next week. So cloud, which is, essentially serving businesses who want to move some of their operations to servers that are hosted in data centers, those pictures of reams and reams of servers that you sometimes see. That's a really huge and growing business for several of the major tech companies. And Microsoft is number 2 in the market, behind Amazon. It's doing pretty well. As you say, there was perhaps some slight tension over the results last night, but Microsoft reassured investors by forecasting strong growth for the next quarter. So that seems to have reassured a few people. But yes, that's a major driver for the tech firms.
I mean, you hinted at it just now, Shona. I mean, Microsoft appears to be pinching market share from Amazon. What's it getting right? What are the dynamics there?
Some of it's due to some aggressive pricing going on between, I would say, the 3 major tech firms. So Amazon is in the lead. It's got about a third of cloud market share compared to the other 2. Microsoft is second. Google a fairly distant third because it's newer to the game. So Microsoft will be sort of building slowly. Also, its chief executive, Satya Nadella, is a cloud specialist. That was his background before he took over the running of the business. So this kind of very nerdy business that Microsoft has invested in for a very, very long time is really paying off for him. So I think it's a key plank for them. Google are a little newer to the game. It's not necessarily Sundar Pichai's specialism. They've also had a little bit of struggle keeping hold of talent. It's a very intense talent market in the cloud business. So that's something Google's wrestling with at the moment. So I think it's a mix of talent, targeting contracts, and having invested in their infrastructure for a very, very long time.
Shona, worth pointing out that Windows licensing revenues from PC makers was up 25% in the quarter. I mean, it's a very, very reliable earnings generator. Isn't it amazing to think that not so long ago people thought it had gone ex-growth?
Totally, and we all thought the PC was dead. That's a narrative that's been sort of dictating almost the last decade of my career. But obviously, the dynamics are shifting. I think the pandemic has obviously changed things hugely in terms of the way people use devices. They might want to return to the classic PC. So yeah, it's definitely not a dodo just yet, and it's still really competitive.
Now, Xbox revenues during the quarter were up just 4%. Is that because it had such a bumper final quarter of 2020?
I would say yes as well. And also, again, you can't understate the effects of the pandemic. We all had very little to do at home, unless you were throwing parties. We all had to find ways to kill time in the gaming. Any company offering gaming services really benefited from that. Xbox, of course, is one of the biggest. And so definitely saw those benefits. So I think a slowdown is not necessarily surprising. Again, we would see a slowdown versus the holiday quarter as well. So I think not necessarily anything to worry about there. It's still a strong business, but yes, compared to the pandemic, I think we'd anticipate a slight deceleration of growth there.
Briefly, Shona, how much of a distraction to management is the Activision Blizzard takeover going to be if regulators start poking around in detail?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a major challenge for Microsoft, who obviously famously back in the 90s were very much the subject of antitrust investigations due to the dominance of Windows on PC and Internet Explorer, the browser sort of being bundled in with Windows. But since then, Microsoft has really flown under the radar in terms of regulatory scrutiny. It's mostly Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook that we hear about a little bit more, particularly Google, I would say. Microsoft hasn't necessarily had the same scrutiny. This is, I think, its biggest ever deal and the biggest gaming deal ever in history. So everything that we're hearing suggests that the European Commission will certainly take an interest. They've given themselves a very long lead time for completion, I think several years of the deal. So I think they're giving themselves space to have to make commitments to keep the regulators happy. So I anticipate they probably have some cards in the back pocket to make sure the deal goes through, such as, for example, promising that Activision Blizzard games, won't go exclusive to Microsoft platforms. They'll be open to sort of partnering with rival gaming companies and platforms to make sure those games are still available. Those are the measures I would perhaps expect Microsoft to take to ensure the deal goes through. So I suspect they're anticipating some probing.
All right, some interesting line there. Shona, always good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you.
Well, still to come here on Ian King Live. We'll be having a look at how markets are doing this Wednesday morning. Stay with us.
I'm Hannah Thomas-Peter, and I'm Sky's climate change correspondent. The UK is a world leader in wind power. Power! Power! People! It's part of the Congo Basin rainforest, which is such an important ecosystem. It's known as the lungs of Africa. We aim to be the best and most trusted place for news. She doesn't really enjoy speaking to the press, and it wasn't clear right up until the last moment that she was going to sit down with me.
I might be just very naive, but I do believe that change is possible, otherwise we wouldn't be climate activists.
I'm confident for the last 30 years we have known how bad it is. I'm not here to apologize, I'm here to fight for the next step.
You can see just the piles and piles of stuff, these sofas and people's desks and children's books, and you can see inside this home here people trying to sort out their home. It's just been devastating.
I think everything's at stake. The future of our planet, the future of the beauty around us, the future of you and me.
Welcome back. Now, let me tell you what's been going on the markets this morning. Another roller coaster session on Wall Street last night was followed by a largely positive session for stock markets in the Asia-Pacific region. Tokyo finished lower, but elsewhere there were gains for Hong Kong, Shanghai and Mumbai. Sydney in the top corner there. You can ignore that today. It was closed for the Australia Day public holiday. Happy Australia Day to all of our Aussie viewers. In Europe, stocks have opened firmly to the upside since the opening a couple of hours ago or so. Here's the current picture. All of them around 2% to the good there. Talking points this morning include Vestas. Shares of the Danish wind turbine manufacturer are ahead some 4% in Copenhagen right now. That's on news that it's pushing through price increases. Well, here in London, the FTSE 100 has also joined the party, up nearly 1.75% right now in a broad-based rally led by energy and financial stocks. The leading blue chip gainers this morning, well, they include international airlines. The owner of British Airways, which is ahead by some 7% right now on optimism over recovering demand for air travel. That's also lifted the hotel operators, Intercontinental Hotels and Whitbread this morning, both of them more than 4% ahead. There aren't too many FTSE fallers to mention. The accounting software group Sage, well, that's slightly lower, some 4.5% nearly right now on a trading update. Outside the FTSE, the gaming software group Playtech is off by 1.75%. That's on concerns that its proposed takeover may fall through. Our colleague Mark Kleiman broke that story overnight. Meanwhile, the wealth manager Quilter, its shares off some 1% on a trading update right now. On the foreign exchange markets, it was pretty quiet, to be honest, ahead of the policy decision later today from the US Federal Reserve. Sterling more or less unchanged right now against the US dollar. It's ahead by 1/5% right now against the euro. As for the oil price, well, that's ticked up this morning on concerns of tighter supplies. They're rearing their head again. Barrel of Brent crude right now, look at that, it's just tipped above $89. That's the first time it's done that since, I think, 2014. $89.01 right now, the price of a barrel of Brent crude. That is up 0.9%. Well, joining me now is Melissa Davis, Chief Economist at Redburn. Melissa, welcome to you. It's all about the Fed today, isn't it?
Yeah, it is indeed. And it's a little bit of an unusual meeting in the sense that the Fed sort of laid out quite a hawkish stall in December and the December minutes. And then markets have been very wobbly, especially sort of US tech since then. And normally we're really used to the Fed kind of rowing back on hawkish rhetoric when something like that has happened. But because inflation is so high, it's 7% in the US, it's going to be really difficult for them to kind of reassure the market. So I think everyone's sort of steeling themselves for quite an unusually hawkish message from the Fed later on.
But no rate rise this month, probably March, that seems to be the betting.
Yeah, so I mean, they're still actually doing QE. It's sort of strange to remember they're winding it down, obviously, but it's still going on. So yes, they should sort of roll out of that into a rate hike in March. A lot of people are expecting that.
Melissa, let me ask you about sterling. I mean, one or two viewers have said to me, why isn't the pound reacting more on Boris Johnson's travails? I mean, it looks very possible that we might get a change of Prime Minister in the near future, yet sterling has just sort of coasted through all of these shenanigans.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good question. I suppose even if Boris Johnson is replaced, there'll be quite a lot of continuity in terms of policy. I suppose
one your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business, but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Pram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Prum Prum Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Hello, lovely listeners. Tune in to the renewed show with Charlotte. Make it a date to listen to me this and every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Starr Radio UK. Tune in to an hour of power, an hour of encouragement, an hour to inspire you to stay positive and strong in this season. See you there and listen.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medase.
During the time of lockdown, we recognise that young people among us could be vulnerable and subject to abuse. This is why Amacares, an organisation that advocates against child sexual abuse, is here to assist the vulnerable amongst us. We have lined up an exciting and educative programmes that can be of help to you. Please check out our website on www.amacares.org for updates of programme. Enjoy a live chat with our team members for advice. Our online counsellors are also available to advise you and signpost you to the right governmental departments. You can reach us on 033 01 33 2415 or email us at info@amacares.org. Confidentiality is key. Thank you.
Check me out.
He tells me my energy is making him tired.
Yes!
How do you get the energy to do
I've been told that I have a lot of energy, but my goodness, I think today I have met my match, people. I have met my match, Miss Suzanne. Wow, amazing.
One of the things that's the start of digging the hole of darkness.
So what did that?
Myself and the world will adjust. And 2019.
Forget the proverbial boardroom. Join me, Simone Frazier, on The CEO, the program that gives you the driving seat over your life. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. only on Starr Radio.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
While the others keep on talking, we keep on rocking.
Body, it's your man. Bekutu, show them you got the cocoa set. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Harry Song, aka Mr. Songs. This is the Kingmaker Baba for the girls. We're here. This is Starr Radio. Don't go nowhere. UK, London. We they call them London for home. For here, we they call them London. And that's how you know. Just have fun and stay blessed.
Hi there, this is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Starr Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Cutting across the genres and tearing up the airwaves.
Time check from our studio says exactly 38 minutes past the hour of 10. Today, the 26th of January 2022, which means we are a few days away for bringing the month to a close, which will be the first month of 2022. And I hope you're doing well. My name is Frank Davis as usual, and I'm sitting in for Archie Hammond this morning. The line-up program, if it is the first time on Wednesday, we finish at exactly 12 o'clock to make way for us to join the Prime Minister's question time from Westminster straight to you live. Today is going to be a heated time for the Prime Minister Boris Johnson. We understand possibly within the next few hours, Sue Gray will actually release a report which from our sources and from what we're hearing could be very, very damaging. And it's only not the Prime Minister whose head might be on the line. We are hearing that there could be high profile senior officials within the government of Whitehall that might have to reconsider their position. The Prime Minister himself, he certainly hasn't done anything wrong, but we wait and see. Very, very difficult day for him, because we know when this thing started, the Partygate scandal started. A lot of Conservative MPs who need to write a letter, if possible, to the 1922 committee, the central committee of the Conservative Party that makes decision whether to recall a Prime Minister, their leader. We're waiting on this report that yes, they want to hear what the inquiry will say before they make their decision. Apparently the Prime Minister again still has the sole power to make a decision whether to publish the full report or not to publish the full report. I don't know, I mean, if you and he choose what you're going to do, because you have set up a committee. A report might be indicting you or might be finding very, very serious adverse things against you, and you are also the person to publish that report, knowing that when you put up report in the public domain, your head is going to possibly roll. I don't know what you do if you were in his shoes. So I do not envy his position this morning, but we'll follow that story through. We'll follow that story through and bring it to you as and when we get the latest feed. We'll be jumping to Africa, where developments are happening also in Burkina Faso, where there was a coup over the weekend of Sunday, Monday. There was a coup. Developments are happening. Someone sent me a message about what is happening in Cameroon. So we might cross over. Dr. Kwanga, how are you doing? I hope you're doing very, very well. And I hope whoever is actually working with Boris Johnson, you start reconsidering your position if you're indicted. But that's the law. They said the Labour opposition are calling for a full publication of the report without holding back any page. We also understand that the author of that report, Sue Gray, has also opted that Tube had a preference that the full report is published. But you know what? The decision is not in her hands. So we will follow that story. It's a developing story. We're going to follow it very closely, and we'll bring it to you. What is happening in the US? What is happening in the US? We are being told, for those of you London here, we are being told driving is now going to be forbidden. Well, a go-ahead has been given to a flying car. Obviously, a car, you can drive it, you can fly it in the US. So we'll look into that. What technology is taking us to and where we're going to. That when there's traffic, you can just fly your car, land wherever you want to go to. But guess what? You need a pilot license to be able to do that. And who are those who can afford pilot license and afford such a cars? Well, the big boys again are being facilitated to make more money, while the boys, that cannot, follow the big boys, are to sit on a buses that are actually with that heating system. This modern day and age, you sit on a London bus and there's no heater on it in the cold weather. Silicon, you want us to take the buses? You're gonna sort your heart out. That is cruel. That is not good in this day and age. I took the bus recently, and a few days ago, this morning I even took the bus, and it's very, very cold on the bus. There's no heat on the bus, and therefore I need to complain, and I'm going to trigger an email to the Transport Secretary, and what you call it, the London Mayor's office. I think that is totally unacceptable. If we jump in our private cars, you complain we're driving. If we come into your buses, look, you are subjecting us to dehumanizing conditions on those buses. I don't think we want that. Anyway, we want to go straight to the weather update quickly, and then transport update. And when we come back, we'll start looking at the news that are making the headlines across the globe and end up in Africa. So let's see what the weather update saying from here. Temperatures today, as we speak now, where we are in Croydon, is 7 degrees. We're going to be having sunny spells with a bit of gentle breeze, largely cloudy and breezy this afternoon. Strong winds and heavy rains from northern Scotland. Temperatures across, we're going to be having from around 1 all down to the highest being around 9. So that's going to be the weather. But you know what, I keep on saying, anytime the weather update comes, there's rain, there's sun, there's cloudy. So if I were you this time of day, I'll dress up properly before I start. Tonight the band of rain will gradually ease and sink south, reaching central parts by dawn. Ahead of this will be dry with clear spells, skies clearing to the north, but a few showers. Bear with me if my voice sounds a bit croaky, not too fully recovered, but we will continue to manage it. Let me say good morning to Archie wherever you are. Kojodake, good morning wherever you are. Olayume Kweke, good morning to you. Give me a shot if you can't, try calling you, but we couldn't get hold of you. Brothers and sisters all the way in Nigeria, we wish you the very best, and thank you for continuous support for our brother all the way in Russia. I hope you're staying safe. We know the propaganda is up, and we know the news is up about imminent conflict. But look, stay put, stay safe, and look, keep on doing what you're doing. Let's go straight to the transport update over here, after which we'll take a quick music break, and when we return, we'll continue for the news headlines. Right, dear, on the London Underground, let's look at it first. Apart from, we have DR, that's a Dockland Light Railway. We've got a bit of severe minor delays in different parts. Northern Line will have part closures, Water will have plant closures. Apart from that, all lines are working between Bekalu Central City District, Hammersmith, Jubilee, all right to TFA and the tram are all in good services. Let's see the stations, if there's any station closure to be announced. East Acton, yes, there's a closure, but apart from that, please check your information and you get the latest that is going on. But wherever you are, if you spot anything that we need to let the public know, please do not forget to let us know. Our WhatsApp line is active, and you can get us 075 3936 966 396 is 1744. I take that again. It's 075 396 is 1744. Our email in info@starradiouk.com. On Facebook, leave us messages and Star Radio UK. When the lines are open, you can join us at any time. Now, on the buses, nothing major to report on traffic. Let's say we do have A3, A23, A361. We do have a bit of park closures over there. And A4, so park closure. Central and Red Route, as usual, we do have a bit of park closures. Apart from that, please drive safe. All routes are on. Going well. River Bus Archie's favorite. Woolwich Ferry is suspended, and this is an interesting thing. The Woolwich Ferry is now becoming a more of I don't know how to term it. You know what? Because with the introduction of the ULEZ extension, the only route that links you right from the southeast towards the north is, the ferry. Because when you go through the two tunnels, Blackwall Tunnel, you're looking at ULEZ, Rhoda High Tunnel, ULEZ apply. You go to Central London, you look at both congestion charge and ULEZ. And therefore, you're left with one option. Either you go through, Either you go through A205 all the way down to south, and then connect to A4, which is really it's something that you cannot, it's not practical. You can't do it. Now, so the option is Woolwich Ferry. And you know what? Woolwich Ferry finishes at and closes at 7:30 p.m. And therefore, if you are the North and you're driving a car that is not ULEZ compliant, to come back to South or to come back to South East, either you park your car somewhere, jump on a train, jump on a bus, or you're gonna sleep in your car till the following morning, or you are forced to pay because Woolwich Ferry will have been closed. So, secondly, the Woolwich Ferry is one of the most unreliable services that are offered by Transport for London. And as we speak, it is suspended, which means that if you have a plan to go to the North, you are forced to pay £12.50 to be able to travel. Look, this doesn't take into consideration that there are people who are handy men and women who need to go and work. City cruises, RB1, RB2, RB4, Thames River services are in good service. Emirate Cable Line in good services for those of you who might want. On the National Rail, let's say apart from Avanti West C2C, cross country West Midlands, Hull, Transparent, they have special services. Apart from that, all lines are in good service. Our line are good. Thames Link is also having a special service. Southern is also a bit of problem over this. That brings us to the end of our transport update, and we'll go for a quick music break. And you know what? I love this. I wish we extend our love to Brother Johnson. Therefore, I'm going for letters of love. And when we return, we'll continue with our news. Letters of love from K. Morrison.
Show it how you live.
It's just a simple word, only 4 letters you can define. Yeah. You show it how you live, you show it how you give. It is 4 letters you can define. Yeah. You show it how you live, L-O-V-E-Love. You show it how you give, L-O-V-E-Love. Just show it, just show it, just show it. Show some love. True love don't come with conditions. No, 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 no. True love comes with compassion. Oh yeah. You show it how you live. You show it how you give. It is 4 letters you can define, yeah. You show it how you live, L-O-V-E-Love. You show it how you give, L-O-V-E-Love. Just show it, just show it, just show it. Just show some love. Love is just a simple word, only 4 letters you can define, yeah. You show it how you care. You show it how you share. It is 4 letters you can define. Yeah. You show it how you care. L-O-V-E-Love. You show it how you share. L-O-V-E-Love. Just show it, just show it, just show it. Show some mad love. True love don't come with conditions. Oh no. True love comes with compassion, straight from the heart. Love your neighbors as yourself. For love is a key that opens the door to peace. So teach the youths how to love. Teach your children how to love. Show them love. Wrap your arms around them and love, yeah. Show them how to live. Show them how to love. It's only 4 letters. L-O-V-E, love, yeah. Show them how to live. Show them how to love. Just show it, just show it, just show it. Show some love.
and tearing up the airwaves.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Oh yes, don't let life dictate to you, but put your signature on life, which is very, very important. The contributions you make to life, to make to others, the other signature you actually put it on life, and how you'll be remembered, that is the signature you put into life. And so do that. Someone say, well, don't just go through life. A little bit of life goes through you as well. Once you go through life, you also leave your imprints, but again, let a bit of life goes through you. Time check from our studio says exactly 55 minutes per the hour of 10, which means we got barely an hour to bring you some headlines before we cross over to Westminster to join the Prime Minister's question time. So we're going to be very swift. Let's touch on some headlines that are making Johnson yet to receive Sugrace report, according to news. To test with Omicron say they had COVID before. Doesn't fear missing houseboat capsize off Florida. U.S. could sanction Putin personally if Russia invades Ukraine. 2 men arrested in UK over Texas, Senegal siege. Unvaccinated U.S. patient denied a heart transplant. Farrer to miss entire 6 nations. Major legal changes needed for driverless cars. That's why Disney respond to criticism of Snow White remarks. So we're going to be looking into that. I grew up alone in care, then found out I had siblings. We're going to go into that. Living with care. What is happening? Missing girl meets her rescuer again decades later. Emotions being expressed over there. Elsewhere on the African continent, Malawi hit by flooding caused by tropical storm. You know what happened a few years ago. I think we're having the same thing. Manuel says all good after concussions care. I think he's ready to go. Malawi President Chikwa sacks entire cabinet. We will be looking at that. Australia, thousands participate in Invasion Day protest. We also look at that. What is happening in Burkina Faso? We also look at the coup, and Mali issuing basically an order giving the French and the Danish an ultimatum to leave its territorial areas. We're going to go Madagascar scrambled to respond after storm devastation. We will look at that story again. That is also making headlines. Cyclone Anna, at least 36 dead. We're going to be going straight into that to look at what is happening in Africa and what has been the response, or what has been the response of our brothers and sisters across other parts of the continent, and what has been the response of the South region, SADC, what has been the response, and African Union, what has been the response. ECOWAS blame for current unrest in Burkina Faso. Right, we're going to be looking at that again in Ghana. The majority grouping whip Anodompe has said that Parliament is actually setting the stage for a military takeover because of what is happening at the Houses of Parliament. We're going to go into that. Look at whether some people argue it's an irresponsible comment to be coming from a parliamentarian who is not just a parliamentarian but also the majority whip over there. So we're going to be looking at that story pretty shortly. We're going to be looking at that pretty shortly. We're going to be crossing over again to Nigeria to look at what is happening. 9 Senegalese soldiers missing in Gambia. We're going to be looking at what is happening. Are we likely to see a conflict over there? Do you recall? Senegal was a place where the Gambia president was first sworn in as a direct result of Yahya Jammeh's intransigence, not willing to vacate the seat. CAF moved next AFCON game from Olembe Stadium. We brought you news that there was stampede and a lot of people died. CAF has now moved the game, but they've not actually completely taken all games. The next game that is supposed to be played, which is the quarterfinal, has actually been moved from there. Let me take this one interesting one first, which is coming from Malawi. I think it's something that we're gonna go into and look at. The president Chikwera dissolved his entire cabinet. That was on Monday. The move comes as three of his now former cabinet ministers face charges. In a televised address on Monday, that's January 24th, Malawi president announced all the functions of the cabinet reverted to him until a new one is appointed. As he sacks his government, the president vowed to confront all forms of lawless conduct by public officials. The move comes after three of his ministers face charges. The former minister of land was arrested in bribery case. The labor minister had been accused of diverting COVID funds, and the energy minister for meddling with fuel deals. All have denied allegations. Wow, that is one move on the African continent. One big move on the African continent. Can that be done in Nigeria? Can that happen in Ghana? Can that happen in Kenya? I dare say no. Nothing is happening. The president will stand up, will rise to the occasion to defend the indefensible, even when it is glaring that even our ghosts that cannot see this time will be forced to see that these people have done wrong. Our leaders will defend them just because they have appointed them. All right, let's stay with Malawi. Let's stay with Malawi briefly. We'll come back to the UK, but let's stay with Malawi. Tropical storm has caused widespread flooding, power outage, and killed at least one person in Malawi, officials said. Cutting path where destruction across. Malawi has, within the last 4 years, I think there's about a third or so flooding. We recall 4 years ago when there was that, is it 3 years? I think 3 or 4 years ago, I'll get this right. When there was that major cyclone that hit the whole southern Africa. Malawi was badly affected. We saw what happened in Madagascar. At that point, we're very critical about how people are acting, whether they are doing enough to help people within the South region or people we call Africa, because we've seen it. Even when Notre Dame or whatever I call it, that church in France collapsed, we saw African leaders queuing up trying to go and donate, as if basically a spell has come upon them. But it happens to our brothers and sisters within the South region, and it seems that the spirit of generosity that pushed us, so to say, to go and be donating to France is no more with us. It has left us, or probably the French government has captured it, and therefore we cannot use it to help ourselves. You look at that and you ask yourself, well, are we doing it genuinely, or we're doing it just to please our colonial masters? May the dead, may their souls rest in peace. And that same story is linked to Madagascar, where we have a tropical storm, the same storm that swept across part of Malawi. Again, we do have it disturbing in Madagascar, where the latest report from Madagascar Disaster Management Agency that yesterday said that 34 people have died and nearly 65,000 have been left homeless since last week. Several low-lying districts of the capital remain under high alert, and emergency evacuation were launched overnight. We are in the process of evacuating people from flooded areas. That is what the officials are saying. We wish them all the best, and we pray that in times like this, African leaders will see the need to go and support our brothers and sisters. Okay, we stay with Africa a little bit, and we'll come back to it. We'll stay with Africa for 1-2 more stories, and then we come to Europe and go back to end up in Western Africa. Botswana president vowed to fully implement the court ruling decriminalizing homosexuality in a landlocked Southern Africa country 2 months after losing an appeal to overturn the relocate. The president invited representatives of the LGBT community to assure them that he will respect the court's decision and protect the rights. We ask and expect everyone respect the decision of the High Court. So, I mean, are we seeing a very landmark move on African continent? That Botswana might be the first. Yes, the court did not say that LGBT should be legalized, but what the court sought to do was to adjudicate and say that discrimination against them is no, and that number is growing. That the number of people who want to recognize such people, Angola is tilted toward Botswana, Mozambique, Lesotho, Gabon, Seychelles, Sao Tome and Principe are all decriminalizing gay sex. The trend is, growing. I do not know what is going to happen in the near future, but here we see the eastern and the southern part of the Southern Africa taking a very strong lead in some of this, but we cannot say it's all over. We cannot say. UN8 welcomed the decision of the High Court of Botswana to repeal laws that discriminate and criminalize against LGBT. But the court can repeal the laws, but Parliament has the ultimate responsibility to either enact different laws that will criminalize. We yet to see, because not too long ago again we saw in Kenya courts ruling that no, Uganda is a no. So we'll monitor those stories and bring them to the fore and when they become available to us. Now let's do the last story from Southern Africa, then or let's do it from Africa, then we'll come back to Europe and then we'll return later. All right, Burkina Faso is becoming an interesting jigsaw, because there's a president, some will say, has not overstayed his basically his leadership, his tenure. In fact, he's in the second term of his tenure. Here's the case, the charges that can be brought against or can be leveled against other leaders of holding on to power. We can't see it over here. He's in the second term, but the military have stepped in. The gentleman leading the military, that Colonel Damiba, was just a few months ago, not a month ago, promoted to lead the security forces in Ouagadougou, the capital city. So he became the head just last month over there. But this is not the first time. We understand that he has to basically get involved in the coup issued in 2015. He was actually in court bearing witness against those who were accused of attempted coup. So he went there, spoke for and on behalf of the government that, look, these individuals that are accused indeed were plotting to outstage the legally and democratically elected government. So Damiba has actually, in a statement read, he was named as the leader. He's closed. He's ordered all the country borders to be closed. He's also, promised that all the detained officials will be treated fairly and unharmed. We understand the ousted president who signed a note to say he has resigned his position, is safe and sound. But you know what? The trend in coups, what is happening? Let me link it to one story in Ghana that will come to Europe. Honorable Anodon Pre, Honorable, they call him Anodon Pre, who is actually the MP for Algeria West and in Sawam area, actually ended up saying that, look, you know what? If we do not take down what is happening in Parliament now, will result in a coup d'etat. Basically, for those of you who might be familiar with politics in Africa and especially in Ghana, the people of Ghana in December 2020 went and elected of both parliamentarians and the president. I mean, the issue went to court when it came to the presidency. Akufo-Addo retained his seat. Parliament became a hung parliament with what we call 137, one independent candidate who had agreed. In fact, he was a former MPP MP who agreed to basically sit and work closely with his former party. Look, as a direct result of that, there seems to be more of negotiation needed to get things done. Presidents do not, the executive arm of the government has no hardest way to bully itself through. One person who should know better, in my view, was Anadon Prene. Yesterday, he was on radio saying that, look, the way things are going in Parliament, and by that, he means that because executives are not getting their way through, we're setting a stage for military takeover. Look, when I heard the story yesterday, I'm on a platform for Don Pren. I went to him personally and I expressed my reservation, and I told him point blank that, look, you know what, some of us do have a bit of respect for you. You continue making comments, irresponsible comments such as this, we'll lose whatever respect we have for you. And do not be surprised if these politicians stage a coup just to maintain themselves in power. If they know they will lose power, and if they know losing power will come with persecution, it will come with punishment, all they will do is to get their guys, their own people, to pretend as if they've taken over the reins of government and then draft a new constitution. We know this current constitution is not something some people do want anyway because they were not part of it. And therefore, whatever will topple the constitution and will protect and preserve their ill-gotten wealth is something that they would like to go for. So, look, we do not want a coup in Ghana, I'll say, because a lot of people are council. So, so we want the government to run, and we want people to be held accountable. But I'm not impressed. You know that, look, there's nothing happening in Ghana that has not been seen before in other mature democracies. Israel, why don't we see in Israel parliament? Poland, why don't we see Lebanon, Italy, Spanish parliament, even in the UK, why don't we see? That is what voters opted for. That we want you people to dialogue. Look, Germany, they've governed coalition for years without a problem. So if arrogance has entered into people and they do not want to consult, they do not want to shift and move their positions, and then we'll have irresponsible comments like that coming. And I made myself clear to him personally, and I did not hide it. I don't know what you think about that. Time check is exactly 12 minutes past the hour of 11. Let's come back to the UK and run through a few stories before we head to Europe, America, and back to the continent of Africa. Johnson should be put on gardening leave, Lib Dem says. Boris Johnson should be put on gardening leave while the police carry out the investigation, say the Liberal Democrats. The party says other people under investigation are often placed on leave to prevent them from interfering with any inquiry, and the same should apply to the Prime Minister. Liberal Lester Carmichael adds, since Boris Johnson is such a fan of spending time in his garden, it's only fitting that he be placed on gardening leave and leave number 10 whilst the police investigate. Refusing to do so will show both the Conservatives utter contempt for the police and erode trust in the government even further. Johnson has repeatedly dismissed calls from opposition parties and some of his own MPs. So look, Johnson is being asked to take a leave. Will he do it? What is your take? What is your thought? Do you think he should do it? Government completely distracted by party rule, labor. Now the government is completely distracted and mired in scandal. That's what Labour is saying. Bridget Phillipson told BBC that Johnson has lost all moral authority. She says the relevance of the party held in number 10 during lockdown does damage to the UK international standing, adding that cabinet ministers who defend the Prime Minister need to look themselves in the eye and decide whether they are going to let the situation continue. You know, he's your boss. He appointed them. What else do you expect? It's going to be difficult, but let's say Johnson could face political onslaught if report not released in full. Well, that is what is coming. If I ask a question in the first place, if you were in Johnson's shoes, what will you do? If you were in Boris Johnson's shoes, what are you going to be doing? Are you going to release the report in full, or what are you going to be doing? Yeah, what are you going to be doing? Will you be releasing the report in full? Now, that is a very, very difficult situation Boris Johnson found himself, because once we are on it, we are being told, for instance, now Boris Johnson, if you do not release the report in full, it will erode public confidence. Anyway, good morning. I think let's have a. I think we have someone who is on the phone. We just called and want to say good morning. Nana, how are you? All right. So we have Nai and we have Mispa. I hope they are doing very, very well. How are you girls doing? Good? All right. We'll speak to you a little bit later. Right. Back to Boris Johnson. We had a quick break from there. Now let's cross over to what is happening from other related stories. The political correspondent for BBC, Laura Kumsbeck, is saying that this proud to commit, so from number 10, proved to be important is next hours, and they are saying that inside sources are saying that they are pushing Boris Johnson to release the document in full. If not, it will not be bad. It will not be good for the government. If you were in his shoe, what will you do? Will you release it? Will you release it? Will you release it? Let's go for a quick commercial break, and when we return, I'll tell you what. I'm receiving some messages, and we'll go to them and see what they are thinking.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR, S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Check me out. He tells me my energy is making him tired.
Yes!
How do you get the energy to do
I've been told that I have a lot of energy, but my goodness, I think today I have met my match, people. I have met my match, Miss Suzanne. Wow, amazing.
One of the things that's the start of the darkness. The whole of darkness.
So what did that
Myself and the world will adjust. And 2019.
Forget the proverbial boardroom. Join me, Simone Frazier, on the CEO, the program that gives you the driving seat over your life. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. only on Starr Radio.
All right, welcome back. Time check from our studios, exactly 20 minutes past the hour of 11, which means we have 40 minutes to go. The lines will be open in 10 minutes. We're still on in what is happening in the UK, but I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to move on from there very swiftly. The reason being that 12 o'clock we're coming back to when there's going to be Prime Minister's question time, and I do believe a lot will be said over there. We'll look at other stories from the UK, and then we will leave it there. Let's go to Omicron, but we agree the biggest story today is events that are unfolding around the Prime Minister. It is most likely that if you don't take time, by close of today, Boris Johnson might not still be the Prime Minister. Everything is very possible, very possible. It's a very fluid situation. Pressure is mounting, and the details of what the report contains will be very critical in determining what happens to Boris Johnson. Two-thirds of people recently infected with Omicron variant say they had already had COVID previously. The finding comes from a large continuing study. More work is needed to know how many are true reinfections, but the results reveal the groups that appear to be more likely to catch COVID. They include healthcare workers and households with children or lots of members under one roof. Winter wave. More than 2 million people have been tested in the study. The latest finding for the first 2 weeks of 2022, that's around 17, are based on about 100,000 polymerase chain reaction, that's PCR tests, posted to volunteers and then returned. About 4,000 were positive, by far the highest rate since the pandemic began. And when selection of them were sequenced to check what type of COVID was to be blamed, virtually all were Omicron. Virtually all were Omicron, which is very serious. The highly infectious variant first identified in South Africa, causing a big winter wave of infection. So basically, what we are being told is that Omicron seems to be the most. Basically, it's a fast spreading variant that we do have now. But what is troubling is that 2/3 of all those who were tested said they've had a different kind of coronavirus before. Now, severe disease. It is not yet clear how many of the volunteers who tested positive had been fully vaccinated. Two shots of little protection against catching Omicron, although protection against severe disease were I mean, at the end of the day, I think I don't agree with this. It's a bit of misleading. But booster doses have been ruled out as speed. I mean, that's what the government has done. Yes, it offers protection, little protection. 2 shots offer little protection against. So why are we being asked to take it if it offers only little protection? Are we being psyched to go for the 3rd jab? Yesterday I was told one of my sister had a 3rd jab and was a little bit of in severe discomfort. Mama, I hope you fully back and your arm is good. We pray that nothing untoward happen. I mean, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Once you've had the first 2, you'll be fine. And all my friends who have had the first 2 and still resisting the 3rd one, so this one there, Omunfa, please go and have the 3rd jab. Go and have the 3rd jab. You need it. You need it. You need it. You need it. Have it. If not, when the 4th one, when they are doing the 4th jab, you might be left out. Go have the first. You've had the first one, second one. Go for the 3rd jab. It's Trinity. You know, you don't have to escape this. It's help. It's good for your body. Sainsbury asks shoppers to keep wearing masks. Again, that relates to COVID. That relates to COVID as well. That Sainsbury has asked, I mean, because of the law that came in place, that legally it is not going to be a requirement for you to wear masks. So on the basis today, you see, although announcements are ruling that people should wear their masks, not all of us are actually wearing the mask. And again, there's a little bit of finance that has also come. That continuous wearing of masks also that has effect on your health. So any little chance, because the pathogens that help strengthen your immune system, if those pathogens are not again entering your system, means it's rendering your immune system very vulnerable to other deadly viruses that might come in the future. Your immune system is being compromised. So there's a strong debate over there, but we'll see what happens. Let's leave the UK and then head straight. Before we leave the UK, there's this story that interests me. You will recall a few years ago, we had a fine gentleman, a talent. I remember, I know him personally because when I was at Legon, he was at Legon at the same time. We're on the same block. He was on P23 and I was in P33. Komla, the late Komla Dumo, you remember he was doing very exceptionally well at BBC. One morning we woke up, was Sunday, and we're told that the gentleman is no more. The BBC is seeking a rising star of Africa journalist for BBC World News Komla Dumo Award in its 7th year. Journalists from across Africa are invited to apply for the award, which aims to uncover and promote fresh talent from the continent. The winner will spend 3 months at BBC in London, gaining skills and experience. So that is what we're going to go. So if you're a journalist out there, okay, if you're a journalist out there, this is an opportunity. This opportunity gave me a continental perspective to news market and opened my mind to new ways of telling the African story. That was someone who won it last 2 years, Victoria Rubadiri, who was the winner of the award, telling her story to the world. So BBC has launched that award. Rura was presented with the award years ago, beyond the huge of elevating the memory of Komla Dumo and the weight of BBC, recognizing my work as a journalist. I have seen the growth in myself just in the last 3 months I spent in London. She said, the training and exposure took my skills to the next level. This opportunity gave me a continental perspective of the news market and opened my mind to news. She said, the previous winners have truly exemplified Komla dedication. That's what the director of BBC is saying. Komla dedication to telling African story with depth, erudition and insight. We are excited to find and welcome this year's winner and see the legacy of Komla Dumo journalism continue. He was a fine gentleman. I admire him quite. You don't normally see him making a lot of noise in public. But may his soul rest in peace. 7 years on, the award is still running. So if you know anyone out there, new talents you want to apply, please do. The opportunity is open. Now let's cross over to Europe elsewhere. Ukraine, US could sanction Putin personally if Russia invades Biden. If Russia invades Ukraine, says Biden. I think we'll look at that story a little bit more because tensions are rising. US President Joe Biden said he will consider personal sanctions on Vladimir Putin. Mr. Biden said there would be enormous consequences for the world if Russia made a move on the nation which sits on its southwestern border. His comment came as other Western leaders repeatedly warning that Russia would pay a heavy price for invasion. Russia has accused the US and others of escalating tension over the issue and denies planning to enter Ukraine. However, Moscow has deployed an estimated 100,000 soldiers near the border. The Kremlin has said it sees the Western military alliance NATO as a security threat and is demanding legal guarantees that it will not add new members further east, including neighboring Ukraine. But the US has said the issue at stake is Russia aggression, not NATO expansion. Well, no one wants to give in. So someone said accounts. I'm going to speak one Greek. I say through Ajrama for an hour tomorrow morning so forth. But here's a case where Ajrama doesn't want to hear. Momoni also doesn't want to stop smelling. So where are we getting to? That's a story that for me, like we said yesterday, we all have to start planning. We don't know. Anything can happen at any time. What is NATO and why does Russia why is Russia under threat? NATO has people, I mean, we're not going to do history over here, but this is just a group of countries that have agreed to form military union. I mean, if you call it that way, and they decide that if you attack one nation, you attack war. This came into effect after not too long after the Second World War. And in a treaty that was signed in 1949, which started with 12 countries, including the US, Canada, and UK and France, they agreed to form a union where military alliances will be something that they will work towards. In 1955, Soviet Russia responded to NATO by creating its own military alliance of Eastern European communists called the Warsaw Pact. But this is what happened following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. A number of former Warsaw Pact countries became NATO members. So basically, we're married. We formed a force against another force just to show our forces. But Cold War led to the collapse of the Soviet Union, and as a direct consequence, we then do have a lot of people who used to be Russian allies. Now saying, okay, you know what, Mary Dada, I don't want you again. We want to jump on a new boat, and therefore you see tension. Russia thinks that that is not right, because at the end of the day, if you're breathing down my neck, then basically you are posing a problem. So we see countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Croatia, Estonia, Montenegro and Albania, North Macedonia, Bulgaria, all are basically countries that used to be part of that alliance, or they used to be part of Russia, but now they've all moved tilting towards the West, and Russia sees that as a threat to its own survivor. A threat to its own survivor. They say it's only when your nurse, basically someone's beer is burning close to you, you do not fetch water and get it. Cuba said more than 700 charged over protests. Let's go into that story briefly. That is coming within the last few minutes. Cuban officials said more than 700 people who took part in anti-government protests last year have been charged with with crimes including sedition, vandalism, theft, and public disorder. The public prosecutor office said 172 people had already been tried and convicted without giving details. Families and activists have criticized the trials as unfair and say the sentences are disproportionate. Hundreds of people were arrested after the protest, the largest in decades. 1,000 demonstrations across communist-run Ireland last July to voice anger over food and medicine shortages, price increase, and government handling of the pandemic. So basically, Cuba is saying, look, we are not joking. We are not joking. If you basically go on an unlawful and unauthorized demonstration, we are going to come up. The accused include 55 people aged 16 to 18 years, as people in Cuba can be prosecuted as adults from the age of 16. So 16 years that could have been spared a bit of, could have been given a bit of leeway over here. In Cuba, that is not the case. You fail the full rigors of the law, and therefore 55 people age or people considered minors are also being prosecuted. Now let's touch on this last story from Europe. That's coming from Italy. Eugene, I hope you're doing very well down in Italy. MPs in Italy are electing a new president this week. Okay, another person to hear this. Italy is one country that can go to office. They can wake up this morning, by the close of the day, they have a new leader. I mean, that is how fluid their democracy is. I mean, if anything is happening, they sort it out straight in parliament. They don't go threatening others. Now, the head of the Italian state has limited powers, but the president does appoint a prime minister and can influence the government economic strategy. With a general election due early next year, a lot is at stake. The next prime minister, probably heading a coalition government, must ensure the recovery of the economy. Now, the pandemic hit Italy hard, but it faced years of stagnation before that, and foreign investors hope the EU member state will stay on the path towards growth. Economy at risk on Tuesday following a second round of voting, which proved inconclusive. Italy's Conservative Alliance proposed 3 possible candidates, leaving the center-left parties to respond as Parliament remains divided over a successor to President Sergio Mattarella. The leader of the League, Matteo Salvini, told a news conference, "We are not here to impose anything on anybody." Critics of Italian political system, where governments are usually a coalition of different political parties, may say the economy has dodged a bullet because the controversial former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi pulled out of the race at the weekend. The current Prime Minister, Mario Draghi, a former head of European Central Bank, is seen as the front runner to take up the presidency. We wish them all the best, but that is happening. I love their democracy. The reason, but I look, they know when you voted in, you know that is not your father's property. The rug can be pulled under your feet anytime. And therefore, you dare to serve the people. You know that to entrench yourself in power, and you cannot do it. Again, you cannot do it. The laws are such that it's a no for you. It's a no for you. Right, time check is 37 minutes past the hour of 11. We're going to go for a quick music break, and when we come back on top of the hour, when we come back at 11:40, we will continue with our program. We'll continue with our program when we come back. All right, let's go for this from Lord Kenya. It says Sikampo Fanahu, and then we will come back to that.
Ajolo, anymore. With the boss one now. Sika Kasa, Sika what to me, Sika ya dear, yes, to bed when you are. To us here, come on, now what's that? My Christ. Now we're so face the world, we see about our rights. I'm up for the work at the end. Why you nice? Near Bessie, and when you're show me, yeah, from when you're Miss War, when you're and Kaya, as soon as you as walk. First, Sika, don't want to find one, Tosika, Lord Kenya, where they may walk, senior, see, is up, magnetic, but me to me, they may hold you and go away. See, come for Faneo. Magnetic, but me to me, they may hold you and go away. See, come for Faneo. Sika, my ocean day, we are. Sing Sika, no trade, Coconia.
It's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB means business. The show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business, but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right, welcome back. We got 15 minutes to cross over to the action-packed House of Commons. I can't wait for it. I wish I could wind the clock forward, turn the hands of the clock down, up a little bit, so that we get it, because I know it's going to be packed. And don't go anywhere. Stay glued to your set. Stay glued to us. It's going to be a very, very packed Wednesday. Today, the 26th of January 2022. It's something that I can't wait. I just want to see what is going to happen. IMF urged El Salvador to reverse Bitcoin policy. Let's see what IMF is saying. I don't have a problem for IMF, though. For those who listen to us a lot and who follow us know, I do have a personal thing with IMF, because IMF has so far not proven to me beyond. I've not seen it that they have actually been able to pull any single country out of poverty. Yet at best they'll be able to help a bit of relief and other things, pressure of government expenditure here and there, but in the long run they actually contribute to the structures that we have that continue to give birth to unbearable levels of poverty. So for me, I am not a fan of IMF. That is one. I thought I'd bring that initial disclosure, which is what I've heard on to for years. International Monetary Fund has urged El Salvador to reverse its decision to make Bitcoin legal tender. In September, El Salvador became the first country to allow customers to use the cryptocurrency in all transactions alongside the US dollar. The decision led to a large-scale protest over fears it will bring instability and inflation to the impoverished Latin America country. Bitcoin has lost about half its value since November. The IMF has warned the president of the risks the cryptocurrency poses to the country. The board directors have now urged the authorities to narrow the scope of the Bitcoin law by removing Bitcoin legal tender status. According to the statement, they highlighted the large risk associated with the use of Bitcoin on financial stability, financial integrity, and consumer protection with issues. I don't understand a little bit of what they're saying, though, because if you have that level of fluctuation, probably today I'm a supplier, you came to pay me with Bitcoin at that market value, and the following day that I'm supposed to pick goods, what do you call it, the goods have gone down, meanwhile the dollar still remains, or I'm going to be buying dollar, then I do have a problem. If I'm going to be buying Bitcoin again, and I know you paid me the Bitcoin, 3 Bitcoin, I'm going to use 2.5 of the Bitcoin to get the same thing. That makes sense. But as long as we continue to import from countries that have not adopted the Bitcoin, which again means that we will have to basically change those currencies back to dollar before we can use them, and it's not everyone even in our country who accept that as a medium of exchange, then we do have a little bit of problem. Yes, I do not agree with IMF. Their stance on policies, I've always found them very, very problematic and detrimental to our people in the long run. So I'm not a fan of them, but I tend to agree with them on this call. Unless El Salvador, like I said, they're doing nothing wrong, but if they can prove or they can convince their own citizens, not even the IMF or anyone, in my view, they have no obligation to do that. But if they can reassure their citizens that, look, we've done enough and we put in place structures, very good structures that will ensure that your currency value is not that devalued. Your currency is not that devalued. That when you have a Bitcoin, it will remain within a reasonable band. But again, this is the issue. They are not in control of the currency. They can set up a monetary policy for the Bitcoin. It becomes a problem. So on this, I tend to basically look at what IMF is saying. I'm not saying, hey, stop using it. But the moment you make it a legal tender, what you are asking is that each and everyone might accept it, even those who do not want to accept it. And that is where I think the challenge is. Because once you make it that way, it means I can pay for everything in what do you call it? I can pay for everything in Bitcoin, which might not augur well for us. Anyway, so I tend to see where they are coming from. Let's hope that. Okay, let's proceed with other stories. We'll be jumping to Africa in the next few minutes. Don't forget we went to Africa earlier on. Okay, I'll leave that. Prime Minister has arrived at what they call it at number. I'll arrive at Parliament, but you know what? I'm going to leave that because we do have a few minutes before that action comes your way live from House of Commons, and we're going to be bringing it to you live. So do not go anywhere. Stay put, stay glued to us, and we will bring you the best as we deem it and as we see it. And it's going to come live and colored, and I think we'll learn a lot. Let me take this story. Let's find out what is happening over here. Again, we're talking about economic difficulties. Unfortunately, our brothers and sisters are dying. I went to when I was in Ghana. In fact, I had opportunity to have taken a taxi driver who opened my eyes to a lot of things. He did not speak a lot of words, but I ended up basically pinching myself all throughout the night. I still have his number. I promised to call him, and I'm going to call him. But he made a comment that was very, very devastating to say the least. He said, look, bruh, the next year that we enter, which is 2020, if I have to walk all the way to Europe and leave this country, is something I surely will do. I'll go to Libya, and I'm very sure by God's grace I will arrive safely. I ended up pleading with the guy that, look, I'm not saying stay in Ghana, but what I'm pleading with you is do not go and risk your life and go to Libya, because that journey is not something that you want to know. Basically, U.S. Coast Guard officials are searching for 39 people who are feared missing after their ship capsized on Saturday night off Florida coast. Officials were alerted on Tuesday morning after fishermen spotted a man clinging to the hull of a boat 45 miles from the city of Fort Pierce. The survivor said the group had embarked from Bimini, Bahamas on Saturday night and hit foul weather. U.S. officials said the boat may have been part of a human smuggling venture According to the survivor, who has not been identified, none of the passengers was wearing a life vest. The search has been led by Miami Coast Guard using ships and aircraft, the agency said on Tuesday. So, look, I mean, this is no brainer. The weather is not that good. Incidents with vessels crowded with people are not common in the waters of Florida. Many of the cases involve migrants from Cuba and Haiti trying to reach the U.S. mainland. So here you have it. I mean, in Europe over here, we know what is happening across the Mediterranean. Again, the channel over here, the UK authorities are now being confronted with it. It's a pity, and you ask yourself one question: what are the push factors? Yes, I understand the pull factors, but what are the ultimate push factors? Can intervention, can something be done about them? And someone will say yes. Others, human beings, have also made their country very attractive to a point where they served now as pull factors. Can we also look at solving our push factors so that we do not have problems of this kind again? Let's see what happens. All right, let's go to our final story. We're crossing over to wow. News coming in. This is an interesting one. It's an interesting one. Very sad, but an interesting one. River sweeps away VIP entourage in Mozambique. A VIP entourage in Mozambique was swept away in a river as tropical storm and batters the country. The government, the governor of Tete province and Tete city mayor were returning from surveying damage wrought by the storm when the four cars in their convoy were swept away by the river, though they were rescued along with most of the other passengers. However, 3 people, including a journalist, are still missing. At least 15 people in Mozambique have died across the country as a result of the storm. Relief authorities say Tete province has been worst affected. 6 people, including children, have died there, most of them after being crushed by falling walls. The city of Tete has been disconnected from what they call the district after the bridge on river Ruvebu, a tributary of major Zimbabwe River, collapsed. The storm first hit the north of the country on Monday and has left a trail of destruction that includes homes, hospitals, schools, electricity pylons, and bridges. Although the tropical storm had dissipated, meteorologists say heavy rains, strong winds, and thunderstorms will continue in central and northern region. Unfortunate station that's coming in. A VIP entourage, 4-wheel drives. If you see the cars, 4-wheel drives, Land Cruiser Prado, a pickup. We are told the river has swept them. Wow. Should they have entered? Should they have gone in? Should they have gone in? That's a question we all have to be asking. But listeners, it's an unfortunate situation that is coming from Africa. That's coming from Mozambique. Now, Slovak flying car gets approved from civil aviation regulators. Now, let's get what that's a news item. Now, an air car is spreading its wings in the sky over Slovakian capital. The dual mode vehicle has already completed more than 70 hours of test flight, 200 takeoff and landings, and make tight 45 degrees tense. Its wings are fully retractable and is currently equipped with a 160 horsepower BMW engine, a fixed propeller, and a ballistic parachute. Today, the company that manufactures it announced that the Slovak Transport Authority has issued it with a certificate of airworthiness in accordance with European Aviation Safety Agency standards. The current prototype has a range of 500 kilometers and requires 28 liters of fuel. The company is already working on its next prototype, which will have a range of 100,000 kilometers and fly at 300 kilometers per hour. Wow. So basically that is what we say for, I can say it, probably tomorrow we'll try and bring it to your screen, but it's going to be an interesting piece, something that can drive. We've seen this in fiction movies. We've seen it, you recall Chiki Bang Bang, a boat that can also fly and again drive. That is what we've had, but here comes reality. Now we have a city, a country, having given this air car a very good clear. Well, the rich will continue. It lands when there's traffic, when it goes on a long journey. It flies when you arrive in the city, you can, which means that it can also beat traffic. But you know what? Technology has actually brought us this far. You can see the wings retracting. We can see it becoming a fully sports car. Someone driving it. I think, look, new things are happening. Why not? Why not? Look, if you like to buy me one, no problem. I remain faithfully yours, and I will gladly receive one of them. Listeners, time check from our studio is exactly 12 o'clock. We're not going to be wasting time. We do not want to mix a thing, because today is going to be very, 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 what I call it, a very big day. Boris Johnson we might see the UK. We might see the UK get to a point where we might need a new prime minister. No one can tell. So we're not going to waste time. We're going to take you over straight very shortly we'll take you over very shortly to the House of Commons, where we know very shortly the Prime Minister's question time will begin. The Prime Minister's question time will begin shortly. So we'll be crossing over to the House of Parliament. I do hope you stay and enjoy it. And tomorrow we will continue. We will continue with our program. But before we go, let's take this commercial break. And when we return, we will cross over to join the Prime Minister for the question.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clemens, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business, but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Pram Pram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Pram Pram.
Look, I would say to the Honourable Gentleman, we've been very transparent and clear with businesses. Both myself and the Minister of Europe, and indeed the Foreign Secretary, have met with businesses and engaged with businesses, as we will be tomorrow, outlined to exactly what our objectives are, which are to deliver for what businesses in Northern Ireland want, which is to rectify the problems that are hampering their businesses in Northern Ireland. We need to correct the protocol, and the EU needs to show some flexibility to make that work.
We now come to the final question. Shadow Minister Tony Hunt on the outset.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to negotiations with the European Union, this government told us we could have our cake and eat it. But we have a harsh Harsh reality, Mr. Speaker. A Prime Minister ambushed by cake while businesses in Northern Ireland are crying out for certainty.
Exactly.
So when will this government finally bake off and deliver a veterinary agreement?
Secretary of State.
Well, excuse me, Mr. Speaker, I'll ignore the cakeism directed by the opposition front bench and just say to your lady, it's good to see her finally supporting the UK government, which Labour failed to do, while we are focused on delivering for Northern Ireland, rectifying the protocol, fixing the problem. Get on board!
Before we come to Prime Minister's questions, I would like to point out that the British Sign Language interpretation proceedings is available to watch on Parliament Live TV. We start with Prime Minister's questions. Ketos.
Question number one, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, remarked to the House earlier this morning, this Sunday marks a tragic day in our history. This was one of the darkest days of the Troubles. And that's the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. And I echo his call to learn from the past, to reconcile and build a shared, peaceful and prosperous future. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
I associate my remarks with the Prime Minister on Bloody Sunday. Did the Prime Minister agree to the Chancellor of the Exchequer writing off £4.3 billion of fraud? That's £154 of every household in the country. That went directly into the pockets of fraudsters.
No, of course not, Mr. Speaker. But what I can tell him, we do not support fraudsters or those who steal from the public purse, Mr. Speaker. But what I can tell her is that everybody in this country should be very proud of the huge effort that was made by Lord Agnew and others to secure ventilators and to secure PPE. And at the time, Captain Hindsight and others were calling for us to go faster, Mr. Speaker.
Craig Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My local hospital, the George Eliot, has recently issued all of its staff, helpers and volunteers with a medal in recognition of the work that they've done and continue to do through the COVID pandemic. Would the Prime Minister join me in thanking them all for the incredible work they've done, including the specialist teams such as palliative care, who've had to act as surrogate families for patients whose relatives who've been able to attend because of restrictions? And will he consider following their lead in issuing a National Service Medal for all of our key workers who've done such an outstanding job in keeping our country going through the pandemic?
Prime Minister.
Yes, of course, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable friend, and I'm pleased that so many of the volunteers and the staff at George Eliot Hospital have been recognised in the Queen's New Year's honours list. I've seen the medal that they are proposing, and I think it's lovely, Mr. Speaker. And as I've told the House before, we're establishing a UK Commission on COVID commemoration to consider how we can commemorate everything that we've all been through, and the Commission will also consider how we can recognise the courage of frontline workers.
We now come to the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I join with the Prime Minister in his comments in relation to Bloody Sunday? The Ministerial Code says that ministers who knowingly mislead Parliament will be expected to offer their resignation. Does the Prime Minister believe that applies to him?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, of course, but let me tell the House that I think he's inviting a question about an investigation which, as you know, Mr. Speaker, I can't comment, and on which he, as a lawyer, Mr. Speaker, will know that I can't comment on. And what I am focused on is delivering the fastest recovery of any European economy from COVID. The fastest booster rollout, 400,000 more people on the payrolls now than there were before the pandemic began. And we're launching a policy tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. He talks about people being out of work. In my case, that's what I understand why he wants it. we're launching a plan tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, to get 500,000 people off welfare into work. It's a fantastic idea. I hope he supports it.
Keir Starmer.
I think the Prime Minister said yes, he agrees the code does apply to him. Yes. And therefore, if he misled Parliament, he must resign. Yes. On the 1st of December, the Prime Minister told this House, in relation to parties during lockdown, all guidance was followed completely in number 10 from that dispatch box. Yeah. On the 8th of December, looks quizzical, he said it. On the 8th of December, the Prime Minister told this House, I have been repeatedly assured since these allegations emerged there was no party. So since he acknowledges the ministerial code applies to him, will he now resign?
No, Mr. Speaker. But you know, since he asks about COVID restrictions, let me just remind the House, and indeed remind the country, that he has been relentlessly opportunistic throughout. He has flip-flopped from one side to the other. He would have kept us in lockdown in the summer, Mr. Speaker. He would have taken us back into lockdown at Christmas, Mr. Speaker, and it's precisely because we didn't listen to Captain Hindsight that we have the fastest growing economy in the G7, Mr. Speaker, and we have got all the big calls right.
The guy that said in hindsight he now appreciates it was a party. We've discovered the real Captain Hindsight, haven't we, Mr. Speaker?
Where your party at?
Let me spell out. They shout now. They're going to have to go out and defend some of this nonsense. Let me spell out the significance of yesterday's developments. Sue Gray matter to the police, having found evidence of behaviour that's potentially a criminal offence. Prime Minister, if you do not understand the significance of what happened yesterday, then I really do despair. Because the police, Prime Minister, the police having got that material from Sue Gray, subject it to a test to decide whether to investigate. And that test was whether it was the most serious and flagrant type of breach in the rules. The police spelt out that what they meant by that those involved knew or ought to have known what they were doing was an offence, and that there was little ambiguity about the absence of any reasonable defence. Does the Prime Minister...
This question will continue, and I will hear the question. Unfortunately, you might not believe this, but our constituents are very interested in both the questions and the answers. If some members do not wish to hear it, please leave quietly. Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, having got the material from Sue Gray, the police had to take a decision as to whether what they had before them was the most serious and flagrant types of breach of the rules. If members want to laugh at that, laugh. The police spelt out what they meant. They decided on the material they've already got that those involved knew or ought to have known what they were doing was an offence, and that there was little ambiguity around the absence of any reasonable defence. Does the Prime Minister really not understand the damage his behaviour is doing to our country?
Mr. Speaker, I hope that the right honourable gentleman understands that although the issue that he raises is important, there is simply no way, as he knows, as a lawyer, that I can comment on the investigation that he is currently taking place. But what he also knows, he talks about the most serious issue. He talks about the most serious issue before the public today and before the world today. It's almost as though he was in ignorance of the fact, Mr. Speaker, that we have a crisis on the borders of Ukraine, and I can tell him what is going on in the cabinet room of this country is that the UK government, no, Mr. Speaker, the UK government is bringing the West together so that we have, led by this government and this Prime Minister and our Foreign Secretary and Defence Secretary to bring the West together to have the toughest possible package of sanctions to deter President Putin from what I think would be a reckless and a catastrophic invasion. That is what this government is doing. We're getting on with the job, and I think he needs to raise his game, frankly.
Can I just say honestly, just sit. Can I just say to both sides, our constituent watching it, tensions are running high, and what we need to be able to do is allow the people out there who are bothered about their futures to hear what is said on both sides. So please, let's give the respect our constituents deserve. Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, this was the Prime Minister who went into hiding for 5 days because of these allegations. Talk to me about being around for the allegations. Mr. Speaker.
Can I just say, I don't want to do this, but I am determined to make sure our constituents can hear. The next person that stops me hearing will not be continuing in this debate. Questions?
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's continual defence is wait for the Sue Gray report. On the 8th of December, he told this House, I will place a copy of the report in the library of the House of Commons. His spokesperson has repeatedly stated that means the full report, not parts of the report, not a summary of the report, not an edited copy. So can the Prime Minister confirm that he will publish the full Sue Gray report as he receives it?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what I can tell him is that we've got to leave the report to the independent investigator, as he knows, and of course, when I receive it, I will do exactly what I said, but I can tell him that in the meantime, I think what the people of this country want to hear is what we're doing to tackle the issues that matter to all of us, fixing the cost of living, Mr. Speaker, helping people across the country, by lifting the living wage, Mr. Speaker, by helping people with their fuel costs, Mr. Speaker, as this government is, and by cutting the tax of people on universal credit, cutting the tax by £1,000. And, Mr. Speaker, that party opposite are committed to abolishing universal credit. That's their policy.
Keir Starmer.
Cutting the tax. The police say the evidence meets the test. Frankly, the public have made up their minds. They know he's not fit for the job, and that's what really matters here. Throughout this scandal, the Tories have done immense damage to public trust. When the leader of the Scottish Conservatives said the Prime Minister should resign, the leader of the House called him a lightweight. English Conservatives publicly undermining the Union by treating Scotland with utter disdain. How much damage are the Prime Minister and his Cabinet prepared to do to save his skin?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think that he was offering a yet more general criticism of what's been going on in Downing Street. Let me just remind the House of what's been going on in Downing Street. We've been prioritising the COVID backlogs, Mr. Speaker, investing massively in 9 million more scans so that people get the treatment that they need and that they've been waiting for, and making sure that we have 44,000 more people in our... Yes, it says it's rubbish. They didn't vote for it, Mr. Speaker. They don't support it. 44,000 more people in our NHS now than there were in 2020, Mr. And we're fixing social care, Mr. Speaker, which governments have neglected for decades, and Labour did absolutely nothing. They have no plan at all to fix the NHS or to fix social care. Vote Labour, wait longer.
The reality is that we now have the shameful spectacle of a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom being subject to a police investigation. Unable to lead the country, incapable of doing the right thing, and every day his Cabinet fail to speak out, they become more and more complicit. And what's utterly damning, despite the huff and puff, is that this is all happening when petrol prices, the weekly shop and energy bills are going through the roof. 3 months ago, Labour suggested cutting VAT from energy bills. Still, the government has failed to act. Instead of getting on with their jobs, they're wheeled out to save his. Whatever he says in his statement later today or tomorrow won't change the facts. Isn't this a Prime Minister and a government that have shown nothing but contempt for the decency, honesty and respect that define this country?
No, Mr. Speaker, we love this country and we're doing everything in our power to help this country. Of course, he wants me out of the way, Mr. Speaker. Of course, he wants me out of the way. He does, and I can't. And many people, of course, I don't deny it. For all sorts of reasons, many people may want me out of the way. But I tell you, the reason he wants me out of the way is because he knows that this government can be trusted to deliver, and we did, and we delivered on Brexit, Mr. Speaker. He voted 48 times. He voted 48 times to take this country back into the European Union. We delivered. He did. He can't be trusted. We delivered the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, Mr. Speaker, and we will deliver on our plan to unite and level up across the whole of the UK. Crime down 10%, Mr. Speaker. Job vacancies at a record high. Colossal investment in... Yes, Mr. Speaker, we're delivering and they have no plan. 3 times as much tech investment as France in this country, twice as much as Germany. We have a vision for this country as the most prosperous and successful economy in Europe because we are going to unite and level up. The problem with the Labour Party today, Mr. Speaker, is that he's a lawyer, not a leader. That's the truth. That's the truth, Mr. Speaker. We've taken the tough decisions.
I can't hear what the Prime Minister's got to say. No. I would have thought he's the Prime Minister of this side of the House. I'm surprised that this side of the House doesn't want to listen to it, because I do. Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I only wanted to add the point that we've taken the tough decisions, we've got the big calls right, and in particular I, am getting on with the job.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Clwyd South, the Welsh Government has been dragging its feet on urgent repairs to the Newbridge Road, while in contrast, the Prime Minister and his government have delivered record Levelling Up Fund investment of £13.3 million along the Dee Valley, from the Trevor Basin to Llangollen and Chirk and on to Corwin. Will the Prime Minister comment on how the next phase of the Levelling Up Fund will bring hope and prosperity to other communities right across our proud union of the United Kingdom?
Prime Minister.
I thank my honourable friend very much, and what pleasure it gives me to address the member for Clwyd South, where I tried unsuccessfully so many years ago. And I'm delighted that a Conservative government is now investing so massively in levelling up in Clwyd South and across the whole of Wales.
We now come to the leader of the SNP, Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate myself with the remarks of the Prime Minister on Bloody Sunday? And I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, you and the entire House will want to commemorate tomorrow the Holocaust Memorial Day, when 6 million Jews lost their lives at the hands of the regime of Hitler. And of course we remember other genocides, not least more recently in Bosnia, and we all pray for continued peace in that country. Mr. Speaker, at the heart of this matter, we have a Prime Minister who is being investigated by the police for breaking his own laws. Absolutely unprecedented. A man who demeans the office of Prime Minister. This is the latest in a rap sheet that is already a mile long. Illegally proroguing Parliament, misleading the House, decorating with dodgy cash, partying while the public suffered. Every moment he stays, he's dragging out the agony for families who are reminded of the sacrifices they made, and dragging his party further through the dirt. The public knows it, the House knows it, even his own MPs know it. Yeah. When will the Prime Minister cop on and go? Yeah.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to join the right honourable gentleman and echo his sentiments about Holocaust Memorial Day, where I think he is completely right. But I must say that he made the same point last week. He's wrong then, he's wrong now, and much as I enjoy cooperating him, but it is precisely because I enjoy cooperating with him so much and with all his Scottish colleagues that I have absolutely no intention of doing what he suggests.
Ian Blackford.
Mr. Speaker, every moment that the Prime Minister lingers, every nick in this death by 1,000 cuts is sucking attention from the real issues facing the public. Tory cuts, Brexit and the soaring cost of living have pushed millions of families into poverty. The impending national insurance tax hike hangs like a guillotine while they eat cake. This is nothing short of a crisis. And the only route out, the only route to restore public trust is for the Prime Minister to go. How much longer will Tory MPs let this go on for? How much more damage are they willing to do? It is time to get this over with. Show the Prime Minister the door.
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't know who's been eating more cake. What I would say to the right honourable gentleman, for whom actually, Mr. Speaker, I have a behind the scenes. People don't get this, but actually we cooperate well, and I want to continue to do so.
Jesse Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Prime Minister will know from personal experience, the River Wye is one of the most beautiful rivers in Europe, yet its fragile ecosystem is being destroyed by phosphate and other pollution. The river crosses the border between England and Wales, but so far it has proven impossible to get the Environment Agency, Natural England and Natural Resources Wales even to begin planning a single integrated long-term strategy to clean up the river. Will the Prime Minister press those agencies now and the Welsh Government at last to come to the table? And will he ask ministers to look at the idea of a new ring-fenced National Rivers Recovery Fund, using fines paid by the water companies so we can clean the Wye and other rivers up properly once and for all?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I had a memorable swim in the Wye myself. I think at about 5 o'clock in the morning once, and it tasted like nectar. But I understand the problem that he raises. It's very important that our beautiful rivers should be clean as well. And my honourable friend, the Environment Minister, will be visiting the Wye area shortly, with or without his swimming trunks. And I know that we're urging the Welsh Government to take this matter as seriously as this government is.
He's going to be there. Sir Geoffrey Donaldson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will know that many families across the United Kingdom are struggling with the increased cost of living and rising energy costs. But in Northern Ireland, that is compounded by the protocol. 27% is the increase in the cost of bringing goods from Great Britain to Northern Ireland when we can get access to those goods. It is costing business £2.5 million every day, almost £1 billion a year, the cost of the protocol. The Prime Minister talks about uniting this nation and levelling up. He could do that by removing the Irish Sea border and restoring Northern Ireland's place fully within the UK internal market.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I must say that I support passionately the indignation of the right honourable gentleman opposite. And yes, Mr. Speaker, I never thought when we negotiated that this would be 200 businesses have stopped supplying Northern Ireland. Foods are being blocked, Mr. Speaker. Christmas cards are being surcharged. And frankly, Mr. Speaker, the EU is implementing this in an insane and pettifogging way. And we need to sort it out, and I completely support what he's saying.
Philip Dunn.
As my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, seen the report published earlier this month by the EAC, making recommendations about what else should be done in addition to the welcome measures in the Environment Act to clean up our rivers, including the River Wye, but all our rivers. One of the recommendations was that DEFRA should give guidance to Ofwat to require water companies to invest much more in water treatment in the next round of capital spending approvals. Will he encourage his Secretary of State to give this guidance in the strategic policy statement to Ofwat expected shortly?
Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Speaker, my right honourable friend is completely right. I welcome the report by his committee. This government is going further and faster than any other government hitherto to protect and improve the health of our rivers and seas.
Lord Russell-Moyle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Happy unbirthday to him. Happy unbirthday to him, because just like the Mad Hatter, he didn't need the excuse of a birthday to have a party, but it did help, didn't it? So when he had groups of people singing to him when illegal gatherings indoor were illegal and communal singing was banned, my constituents think that he has lied. My constituents think that he lied to this House, and my constituents think he lied to them when he was partying and telling them all...
Order. In passing what your constituents say, but you can't continue to labour that one point. Lord Russell-Moyle.
So, I would prefer to be led by a lawyer than a liar. Will he now resign?
The honourable member will be withdrawing that last comment.
I withdraw it. That's what my constituents think, not mine.
Right to. Less of that, Prime Minister.
Well, I think that the honourable gentleman, I'm afraid, in everything he said just now, plainly doesn't know what he is talking about. He plainly doesn't know what he's talking about. What I can tell him, and what I can tell his constituents, is that irrespective of what they want to focus on, and I understand why they do, Mr. Speaker, this government is going to get on with the job and deliver for the people of this country.
Cheryl Murray.
Mr. Speaker, the great people of Cornwall voted in our Prime Minister on a promise to get Brexit done. He was successful. Faced with the global pandemic, our Prime Minister set out to build a world-beating vaccination programme to save lives. Mr. Speaker, he was successful. He's now lifted COVID restrictions against huge pressure not to do so, and he's got the economy back on track. Can I ask my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, will he continue to deliver on the priorities of my constituents and the millions across this country who voted for him in 2019?
Mr. Speaker, I really can't improve on the brilliant question. The people of South East Cornwall are lucky to have my honourable friend as such a representative, and she's right in what she says.
Jonathan Edwards.
Diolch, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is the second anniversary since my constituent Michael Leary was murdered and his body desecrated in an attempt to cover up the crime. Will he meet with campaigners and myself to discuss the need for a new offence or amended sentencing guidelines to reflect the extra suffering faced by the families of murdered victims whose bodies were concealed or desecrated?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank him very much for drawing this appalling case to the attention of the House, and I can certainly assure him that he will be getting the meeting he needs at the earliest opportunity.
Sir Mike Penning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On the 24th of November, Mr. Speaker, I asked the Prime Minister if he would meet with me and my constituents about the future or lack of future of a new hospital in Hemel Hempstead. I thought when I put in the question today that I would have to ask the same question, but last night I was offered the meeting. So on another note, Prime Minister, many children in this country are suffering from a special form of seizure, which medical cannabis prescribed by a consultant actually helps them live. Only 2 children in this country get that free on the NHS. The rest of those children have to beg, borrow and scrape in their families to try and get that prescription issued by a consultant paid for. Can the Prime Minister please use the political will? I know the Secretary of State has the political will, but please push this forward so these children live.
Prime Minister.
I thank my honourable friend. I'm delighted he has the meeting that he wanted. We've already changed the law to allow doctors to prescribe cannabis products where clinically appropriate. But, Mr. Speaker, we're very keen to support it, provided the MHRA is happy as well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Threats and intimidation, bribery and blackmail, racism and Islamophobia. That's the character of his government. Every day, the Prime Minister lurches from scandal to scandal, and meanwhile, his government has written off £4.3 billion to fraudsters. Instead of writing off loans to fraudsters, why won't the Prime Minister write his resignation to the Queen?
Mr. Speaker, because let me just. She talks about racism and Islamophobia. You look at this government, Mr. Speaker. Look at the modern Conservative Party. We are the party of hope and opportunity for people across this country, irrespective of race or religion, and we don't care what religion you affirm. All we care about is whether you're interested in ideas of aspiration and opportunity. That's what we're about.
The recruitment of 20,000 police officers is a fantastic commitment to law and order by this government. Bedfordshire, in common with many other police forces, has lost out on about 95 officers as a result of the imposition of damping in 2004. So we don't have to rely on one-off special grants to stay solvent. Will the Prime Minister recommit to the reformation of the police funding formula in this Parliament?
Prime Minister.
My right honourable friend, the policing minister, has assured me we're going to be introducing a new funding formula before the end of the Parliament, but I'm pleased that Bedfordshire Police have already recruited 100 additional officers as part of our uplift programme. That's part of the 11,000 more that this government has put on the streets.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Twice in recent months I've asked the PM about his and his Transport Secretary commitment to deliver the PM's pledge to invest in UK-built ZEBs zero-emission buses. I did not receive a clear answer. Worrying reports in the media of Treasury cuts to bus buying plans highlight a conflict between the PM and his Chancellor. Prime Minister, is the current Chancellor denying you, the current Prime Minister, the right to fulfil your pledge to buy 4,000 zero-emission buses?
Prime Minister.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I don't. There's never in the history of this country been such a bonanza for buses. I am personally a bus fanatic. We're putting £5 billion into buses and cycling during this Parliament, and £355 million into new funding for zero-emission buses. And yes, of course, we want to see the benefits of that funding spread right across the whole of the United Kingdom.
Louis French.
Mr. Speaker, securing extra health services at Queen Mary's Hospital Sidcup is a key priority for local residents, as it is for me as the first homegrown MP for Old Bexley and Sidcup. Will the Prime Minister support me in delivering this extra investment for our local hospital and join me in thanking all of the staff at Queen Mary's for their incredible efforts? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Yes, and I can't say what a joy it is to welcome my honourable friend to his place. Joy seems a bit confined on the benches opposite, Mr. Speaker. I thank him for his work and support for everybody at Queen Mary's Hospital, which he and I have campaigned for many years. Last year, Queen Mary's received £800,000 of funding, and I hope that it will benefit further from the £1 million funding awarded to the Oxley's NHS Foundation Trust to improve technology services across its estates.
Richard Bergen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A nurse who organised a small socially distanced demonstration against this government's pay cuts was fined £10,000. People out there are sick to the back teeth of it being one rule for the Tories and another for everyone else. The Prime Minister, for once, needs to do a decent thing. For God's sake, resign.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think there was a question there. There was an invitation for me to do what, of course, the Labour Party wants me to do, but I'm not going to do it, Mr. Speaker. We are going to carry on with our agenda of uniting and levelling up across the country. And they fundamentally know that they have no answer to that. We have a plan and a vision for this country. They have absolutely nothing to say. And that is the difference between our side and their side.
Mr. Speaker, alongside the threat of a Russian invasion of Ukraine, there are real fears of China invading Taiwan. On Sunday, Beijing staged the largest incursion into Taiwan's airspace since October. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that military aggression and threat of occupation are never acceptable anywhere in the world? And will he confirm that under this Conservative government, the UK will always be at the forefront of standing up forcefully for freedom and democracy, security and stability?
Yes, I thank my honourable friend. I want to tell him that the Chinese military flights that have taken place near Taiwan in recent days and months are not conducive to peace and stability in the region. And what we need is a peaceful and constructive dialogue by people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. And I know that is what my right honourable friend, the Foreign Secretary, and all colleagues are working for.
That ends Prime Minister's questions. For those who are not staying for the UQ, please leave quietly. Right, we now come to the urgent question, which has been granted to... I'll just let a few more go, won't be a second. Kevin Hollingray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and for granting this urgent question. I'd like to ask the Secretary of State for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy if he will make a statement on the government's plans to bring forward an economic crime bill.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable friend for the question, but as I'm sure he'll appreciate, I'm not going to speculate about the content of any future Queen's speech. That's the correct moment for the government to be setting out its legislative agenda for the next parliamentary session. However, I can confirm that the government remains committed to tackling economic crime, which is why my colleagues in the Home Office and the Treasury take the lead on this. In the recent years, we've taken a number of actions, including creating a new National Economic Crime Centre to coordinate the law enforcement response to economic crime, and establishing the Office for Professional Body AML Supervision to improve oversight of anti-money laundering compliance in the legal and accountancy sectors. We delivered the Criminal Finances Act 2017, which introduced new powers, including unexplained wealth orders and account freezing orders. We're determined to go further to crack down on dirty money, to protect our security and our prosperity. With the publication of the fraud strategy and second economic crime plan this year, we will further level up the response to crack down on these types of crimes. My department is playing its part. Bayes announced plans to reform Companies House in September 2020, and in 2021 we consulted on more detailed aspects of the reforms, and we will respond soon. Investment in new capabilities at Companies House is already underway, with £20 million being invested this financial year and a further £63 million announced at the spending review. The draft Registration of Overseas Entities Bill has undergone pre-legislative scrutiny. We're amending the bill in line with the committee's recommendations and in line with comments the Prime Minister made to this House just yesterday. We will introduce the bill and the broader reforms to Companies House when parliamentary time allows.
I'm grateful to the Minister for his response. As he knows, economic crime costs the people of this country £100 billion per annum, according to the National Crime Agency. The Government has repeatedly committed to legislate to give our agencies the tools they need to tackle this problem. It was there very concerning to hear from my noble friend Lord Agnew, who recently resigned from his role as Minister responsible for countering fraud, that a decision has been made to drop the economic crime bill from the legislation due in the next parliamentary session. This is not a notional white-collar offence. It affects real people in very tangible ways. Terrorists and drug dealers depend on it to launder and legitimise their money through UK banks, companies and properties. Up to 50% of monies flowing through Russian laundromats
often used for tax avoidance, stolen public funds, and to launder monies derived from organised crime flowed to UK shell companies. UK corporate structures were involved in arms deals which breached sanctions in the Sudan. HSBC and NatWest have been fined hundreds of millions of pounds for allowing criminals and Mexican drug cartels to launder their money through accounts held at their banks. Around £5 billion of taxpayers' money, as an estimate, in the form of bounce-back loans has been taken fraudulently because some banks have not applied the most basic of checks. Exactly. Criminals, despots and terrorists involved in people trafficking, illegal immigration, drug dealing, extortion, kleptocracy, the impoverishment of nations and fraud, including directly from the public purse to the tune of £30 billion per annum, are all facilitated by some of the lax rules we have in this country. The government has promised to tackle this by means of Companies House reform, as my honourable friend says, to fund regulation by applying a small surcharge to the current cost of establishing a company in the UK, so we can close down those shell companies and trusts, to introduce a register of overseas entities to reveal the real beneficial owners of UK property, and a corporate offence of failing to prevent economic crime. So, for example, banks can be properly held to account for granting those fraudulent bounce-back loans. All this, plus more resources for our agencies and new whistleblower protections, will boost this country's reputation, tackle crime and help to lower our tax burden. Every minister I've spoken wants to do this. The Treasury Select Committee wants to do this. All our crime agencies want to do this. Campaigners want to do this. I urge the government to bring forward this legislation as soon as possible.
Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I first of all acknowledge the work of my honourable friend, the member for Thurston Moulton, in this area, both on Companies House reform, both on whistleblowing as well, and general economic crime. He really has a handle on this issue, and his words are always well received, his thoughts are well received. He's absolutely right that economic crimes are a significant cost to the economy, and he's detailed that. And the victims, remember there are victims at the end of this as well, they experience significant distress. We also recognise the national security implications of allowing dirty money from overseas into our financial system. We acknowledge the need for action on economic crime, and this government has acted. My colleagues in the Home Office and Treasury have commenced reforms to the suspicious activity reporting regime, created the National Economic Crime Centre to coordinate the law enforcement response, reviewed our money laundering regulations and supervisory regime, which will report by June 2022, and we are legislating for the economic crime levy in the current finance bill. We're committed to building a framework which will deter such crimes from happening and provide a framework which ensures that those who commit such crimes can be held to account.
Come to Shadow Secretary of State, Jonathan Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank the honourable member for his urgent question today. Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, there was widespread recognition of the urgent need to get money out to support businesses as soon as possible. But what made Lord Agnew's resignation statement this week so alarming was his criticism of how the government is handling cases of fraud now we know about them, and this news that the government may no longer be intending to bring forward the economic crime bill. Lord Agnew described the performance of the Department for Business as nothing less than woeful, and added that they are ably assisted by the Treasury, who appear to have no knowledge or interest in the consequences of fraud to our economy or society. To be honest, Mr. Speaker, it's one of the few times in this Parliament the two departments have been consistent with each other. But these are very serious allegations for a serving minister to make. And I'm worried by what the Minister has just had to say about the economic crime bill. So let me ask him about the government's intentions in this area and whether its commitments still apply. Firstly, is it still government policy to legislate for a register of beneficial ownership of property in the UK so we can find out who really owns property in this country? Secondly, will the government still legislate to prevent abuses of Scottish limited partnerships? Thirdly, will the government still legislate to prevent the shortcomings in the unexplained wealth order regime highlighted by the recent case in the High Court of Baker and others? Fourthly, will the government still reform Companies House? Quite obviously, if the register of British companies was more rigorously checked and policed, there would not have been as many fraudulent companies as they were to engage in fraud when this crisis began. Finally, can the Minister confirm that his department's latest estimate of the value of fraudulent bounce-back loans is £4.9 billion, and it is their intention to write off £4.3 billion of that. Mr. Speaker, this sorry episode reveals a government far too casual with wasting taxpayers' money. But there is also an aspect to economic crime which relates to the probity and integrity of our financial and political systems. And I hope the Minister can provide me and this House with some much-needed reassurance today.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his comments, and indeed our appetite for tackling economic crime remains undiminished, and indeed as it does with Companies House reform as well, which has been well trailed and well considered, and we will continue to work in this area. But what I can't do is preempt what Her Majesty will say in the Queen's speech. In terms of the bounce-back loans that he talked about, the Economic Secretary made really clear in this House HMRC did not produce the figure of £4.3 billion, and the money has not been written off. It was an inference, I think, by journalists who subtracted £1.5 billion, the estimate of the amount to be recovered by the taxpayer protection from the £5.8 billion that was estimated as error and fraud in 2020 to 2021. It was publicised before Christmas. We continue to work with our department, with our fraud measures and partners in government, with the British Business Bank and indeed all the partner banks who issued this money in the first place.
John Penrose.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that the Minister can't be tempted to comment on what might or might not be in the Queen's speech, but based on what Lord Agnew has said, if it were to be true, can I please urge him to consider that it will be about as popular as a cup of cold sick with anybody out there who is concerned about the fight against corruption or the fight for transparency. The well of excuses after 3 or 4 years of promising this piece of legislation or its related pieces has now run dry, and it is absolutely essential for the credibility of this country and of this government, particularly at a time when we have a crisis in Ukraine and all sorts of Russian oligarchs waiting to move money into this country if they possibly can, and there are questions, we just heard in Prime Minister's questions, about fundamental questions of integrity about Westminster here today. It is absolutely essential that we do not back away from this central piece of legislation, which is a touchstone issue for many, many stakeholders out there.
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend, and I appreciate his work in tackling corruption and encouraging further transparency as well, which we have several conversations about. But look, we remain undiminished in our approach to tackling economic crime for the reasons that he's given, and indeed Companies House reform as well. We will work with Home Office, we will work with Treasury to make sure that we can get these in place as soon as possible.
MP spokesperson Alison Thulis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Lamentable, woeful, arrogance, indolence and ignorance were just some of the words Lord Agnew described this government's action on economic crime as. And by resigning at the dispatch box in the Lords, you've shown a lot more courage than anybody in the front benches in this place. £4.3 billion lost in the COVID schemes, as yet unknown sums lost in government-backed loan schemes to crooks and fraudsters, while some in this country got no support whatsoever. And it was deemed too difficult to redress support for in the schemes for parents, for example, in the CEASE scheme. And Lord Agnew also said it was a foolish decision to kill off the Economic Crime Bill, and with the evidence I've heard at Treasury Select Committee and our inquiry on this, I would absolutely and wholeheartedly agree. And economic crime could be halted in many cases had the government tightened up Companies House, because reform is well overdue. The government has huge volumes of evidence on this. There is no verification, there is a tiny sum to set up a company, and the information in Companies House on the register is, calling it politely, utter guff. And if the Minister looks at Graham Barrow on Twitter, he will see some of the absolute nonsense that is entered into the Companies House register and yet somehow accepted. All of which, Mr. Speaker, has led to an open door through which crooks and fraudsters have been allowed to waltz off with public money and government-backed loans. And UK corporate structures, such as SLPs, are allowing this to happen and have done for years. So when what date will we see an economic crime bill? When, on what date, will we see the registration of overseas entities bill, which I sat on the Joint Committee with the Lords on years ago, and the Government has failed to act? And why is it that this Government is so unconcerned at the UK being deemed Londongrad, notorious for the laundering of dirty money? And who benefits from this, Mr Speaker? Is it Tory donors and their pals?
I think that last comment is beneath the debate, and because she talks about Companies House reform, and clearly there's a lot of work already happening in Companies House. It already supports law enforcement on hundreds of cases each month. We want to get the balance right between making sure that Companies House, that new entrepreneurs can set up businesses easily and affordable, but we know there's so much more to be done in reform. And this is why, as I say, our appetite remains undiminished. She talked about Lord Agnew. Can I thank Lord Agnew for the work that he's done in this area? I've worked with him closely in tackling and putting measures in place to tackle fraud in bounce-back loans in particular, and other areas of government. He's been a great servant for this government, and I regret the fact that he's gone.
Mr Speaker, may I congratulate my honourable friend on raising this matter and point out to the Minister that the government over the last 10 years has made a lot of progress in this area, but that working across the House, many members have put a lot of time and effort into trying to advance what is an important British agenda, not least at the G8 under David Cameron's leadership. Can I point out to him that the Companies House remains a very good library, but it doesn't have investigation.